Well, hello, I am Ruth from Fae Hollow Homestead, and today I'm going to be taking you on a small garden tour. We don't have a whole bunch of stuff going on in the garden today, but we do have some really stellar spring plants going on that I planted a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, and even though it was early March all the way through now, which is almost the 1st of May, they've been doing a really great job in the garden, growing. Nothing that I had to do, just kind of some general maintenance. So I'm going to show you those stellar plants that I just absolutely love because they give me hope for summer, and I'm going to share them with you. So here we are entering through the main gate to the vegetable herb garden. You'll see that there's a lot of blank spaces in the garden right now, but today the video is just really about those super hardy plants that have been doing well even since early March and growing and even blooming. So one of my favorite herbs in the garden is Soapwort. One of my favorite things about it is that it looks beautiful throughout the entire year. So even in the winter when most things are dead or gone or even brown, this has a really beautiful red foliage, and I'll show you right now how beautiful it looks. It's even got some flowers coming along. It's got a real low growing mounding habit. It kind of pours over the edges of the bed, and it's just beautiful throughout the entire year. So I love it. It's a pollinator magnet, and you can see it's growing very well even though it's still before our last frost date. Moving on, this is my plantain bed. They look a little bit scraggly right now, but they're going to fill in really well. Plantain is an important herb to have in any garden. If you don't have room for it in your garden, I'm sure you'll be able to find it in your yard. It's probably one of the most prevalent herbs around, easy to forage for. And here is the Valarien and the Rhubarb. So I love valerian flowers. They're just absolutely gorgeous. They're delicate, they're beautiful, they are very, very fragrant. Just kind of like the roots of the valerian plant, but in a very different way. The valerian roots are very old gym sock kind of smell, but the flowers are just gorgeous. And you can see that these are even starting to have some buds showing up. We're going to have flowers on these plants very soon. I planted these last year, and you can just see how well that they've taken off. They're growing like it's the middle of summer. It gives me so much hope when it's early spring, and I just want to see the garden started, to see things like the valerian, like the soapwort, and then like this rhubarb over here. The rhubarb is absolutely ginormous. So from the rhubarb you can see we go up. We have some blueberry bushes that are starting to go. We've got plenty of blossoms on those, and the bees have been buzzing happily around them. And as we come around and down, this is my astragalus bed. Now I planted this particular astragalus set last year, and you can see one is not doing so great. This poor guy, he got attacked by a vole. A vole made a tunnel right underneath his roots, and kind of dried out the roots a little bit, so I had to kind of baby it. It looks like it's starting to come back a little bit, not doing so well. This vole, I swear, is going to be the death of me, but we're going to figure out a way to make everybody happy. I planted some seedlings this year, and you can see they're kind of popping up, and I am very excited to have those be just as big as the other one next year. I'm trying to build up my astragalus bed a little bit year after year. I did a post about this earlier, but if you have trouble growing astragalus, which a lot of people do, especially if you start it from seed, one of the main things that you can do to help yourself and get those odds going in your favor is to inoculate the soil and your seedlings with a thing called Mycoblast. Now I'm sure that there's other brands out there, and I'm not trying to say this is the best one, but this is definitely the one that I use, and it's been recommended to me by other people. Last year I grew astragalus, and you could see I only had a few plants that were doing really well here. This year when I did the seeds, I had almost 100% germination rate, which was so much better than last year where I had maybe 5 to 10%. So getting that mycoblast is really the best thing for you if you're trying to get an astragalus bed. Also, you only have to inoculate your bed one time a year, which is a big deal. You don't have to keep up a bunch of maintenance on it or anything like that. It's just quick and easy. and it really gives you some incredible results. So Mycoblast, Astragalus, that's how it's done. Okay, coming up the garden, you'll see where the old compost used to be. This is my Comfrey. Now I have several Comfrey bushes, plants growing around my food forest especially, and I just like to chop down the stems, drop them right where they are, and use them as a living mulch. There's nothing better than being out in the garden in early April and seeing blossoms and flowers. It's beautiful. So the next greatest plant that I've got in my garden is Yarrow. So this Yarrow bed is one of my favorite spots as well. I know I keep saying that about everything, but I just love the way that Yarrow is so soft and feathery, and I could just lay down on this and make it into a bed. And so also one of the things about Yarrow is that it really spreads. And so I was able to take a whole bunch of this Yarrow out this year, and I was able to transplant it. Now Yarrow does not like to be transplanted at all, so I found out, but if you leave it where it is after transplanting and just give it some time, new sprouts will come out. It won't be the old stuff, it won't be the big stuff, but new stuff will come out and it will do well if you just give it its time. So we put several pieces of Yarrow, chunks of Yarrow into the rock walls surrounding our house, and those are actually coming through really well. And I'm very excited to have Yarrow kind of falling from the rock walls. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Now on the other side of me over here, I have mountain mint. Now mountain mint has been doing really well this spring as well. And then here is my Calamus. The Calamus, I got 3 plants last year, and I planted it in this wonderful little waterproof container. And you can see how much it's spread out. Calamus is also known as sweet flag. So this is evening primrose, and I'm very excited to have this coming up again this year. The flowers are just gorgeous, and you can use this a lot in your herbal remedies. And right next to it is probably one of the bigger plants that have been growing. This Motherwort has been popping up and really shooting up since the very beginning of March. So Motherwort is an herb that when you plant it from seed, it definitely flowers the following year. So I planted these last spring, and I'm very excited that this year is going to be the first year that we're going to really get some good flowers from it. The hops that I have growing here is kind of a special plant to me. I planted this specifically with my father in mind last year because he likes to brew beer, and in fact, for my wedding, he brewed a special brew and bottled it for my husband and I to serve at our wedding, and he called it Dad's Ruth Beer, which is kind of a play on words because where we're from in Wisconsin, there's a root beer there that's called Dad's Root Beer, and it was our favorite drink that we had all the time growing up. But anyway, I grew these hops for him, and I didn't know he was sick at the time, and he ended up passing away last year, so I didn't get to share this with him. I can't imagine ever not having these hops growing here now, though, and I will be harvesting from them and attempting maybe to make some beer later on. I don't know, but just right now, just having this specific plant is really comforting to me. The garden is definitely a place to heal, and having things like this here helps. So moving down from the hops, one of the big showstoppers this spring is also the catnip. And I had so many people tell me not to plant catnip. It was remarkable, and I'm just astounded at this because catnip can be used in basically everything. It's good for almost everything, and it's beautiful and it's lush, and I love to let my cat in here and let him just kind of roll around in it, and it doesn't even hurt it, which is wonderful. So coming down the line from the catnip, we're going past the feverfew and the dantian and some mint, and here's where the pleurisy root's going to be coming up. You can kind of see them kind of popping up already, but Here's the all-stars in this section. This is my Marshmallow, and one of the reasons why I have it here is you'll see that I have a slope in my garden coming down towards me from that direction, as well as a definite slope up there coming down this direction. And although I've dug swales in several places here to try to keep the flow of water contained and slowed, this is definitely the spot that gets some of the most water out of my whole garden. It all comes this way, and then you can see it just kind of flattens out right here. So it just kind of sits, and the Marshmallow loves it. Now, Marshmallow is fabulous because you can use the leaves, you can use the roots, you can use everything. It spreads, it's perennial. It's just a really great herb to have in your garden. Plus the flowers are whimsical and they're beautiful. They're very, very beautiful. It's probably one of my favorite flowers, one of my kids' favorite flowers. The girls absolutely love it. And to have it growing so tall and so abundantly here is something that I'm very excited about, and for it to spread. I want it to spread. Everybody worries about their plants in their garden spreading, and here I am. I just want all of them to spread. Fill in the beds. I gave them all extra large beds so that they could give a lot of spreading room, and hopefully I'll end up with many, many plants and only having to plant just a few. So from the Marshmallow over here we have my Echinacea. And I planted those from seed last year as well, as a way to kind of keep on budget. But Echinacea is also a plant that flowers on the second year. But you can see how well it's doing. It looks just like it did last year during the height of summer. Only this year I know that there's going to be some beautiful flowers popping up as well. So that's super exciting. And then right next to it is some decorative Comfrey, which, just like the other Comfrey, has already blossomed and is dropping seed, and will hopefully spread a little bit. And I'll be cutting that down very soon to put underneath some fruit trees. This is right underneath one of our cherry trees, which you can kind of see right there. But Comfrey with a fruit tree is just a really great, smart pairing. Coming up from the fruit tree, here we are. We're right at the edge of the herbal and vegetable garden, and you can see through the fence into the food forest. But last year, from seed, pretty much all from seed, all the things that I'm growing here is from seed. It's just so much more cost effective and satisfying to grow things from your own seed, is garden sage. And last year it did not bloom, just like many of them, but you can see that there's definitely some beautiful buds starting, and we're going to have some great flowers coming up from this sage this year. I've got this little tiny strip going around, and it kind of looks a little bit gravelly, and it's not the best soil, but I find that wildflowers and pollinating flowers, or pollinator flowers, do really well in this. And so we put marigolds in it, and sunflowers, and yarrow, and all sorts of mixes. I can't even tell you all the things that are growing in it right now. And I just surround the garden with it as a way to kind of draw in the pollinators, and then everything inside the garden that will be blooming for probably the first time this year will also be drawing in those pollinators as well. So hopefully we won't have to worry about whether or not the bees are happy in this garden. So this is the garden, and I'm very excited about it filling in and seeing everything come up the way that I kind of envisioned last year. There was a lot of work that went into it, and this year I get to just kind of enjoy it more, and I'm very excited about that. I'll do another video on the food forest. I don't see a whole lot of people talking about food forests in a temperate climate like zone 6 where we are right here. So hopefully some people will be excited or interested, or may be able to get some ideas from the food forest that we're doing here. Thank you so much for joining me and going through the garden with me as I talk about all the different things that are going to be happening, that have been happening. I look forward to giving you another tour later on this summer when there's a lot more coming up and it's full abundance. This is Ruth and Fae Hollow Homestead, Zone 6, Bath County, Virginia, and I'm wishing you a very wonderful day. Be blessed.